that what we're really talking about is national security here, correct? You guys all agree with that? So if we think about, and I think Mr. Billingsley, you said, or maybe Mr. Sales, you said at the end of the day, a sovereign country can't be sovereign without a secure border. You agree? And explain, maybe for the record, how that works, meaning you have legitimate border crossings, which Senator Lujan talked about, and I think he makes points about what we need to do there with better technology. But when you have a surge of migrants through a non-designated port of entry, just explain operation. Maybe Mr. Clifford, I'll ask you to do it. What happens operationally on the border when you have a surge at a non-standard, non-designated port of entry? What happens to the legal port of entry? What happens to the resources there?
Well, thank you, Senator. That's a logistical, organizational question. It's difficult to answer without knowing the specifics of that surge, where it is, what kind of...
Well, let's say it's far away in a non-designated port of entry, and you have your two legal port of entries that are doing it. Wouldn't it be common sense to say, hey, we need more resources, and you weaken these two places because you have to surge over here to the place where you have 18,000, 20,000 people crossing, claiming falsely asylum? Wouldn't that be accurate?
It would be, sir. The judicious use of limited resources, going where the threat is the most.
Sure. So you said adapt. That's how they've maybe adapted, right? And when you look at a period of time of 4 years where you have 10 million people that came across the border, was that good for national security or bad for national security?
Bad for national security, Senator. And
so that asks the rest of you, just good or bad. Was that good for Hezbollah and for terrorists, or was it bad for them?
They're not very good terrorists if they didn't take the opportunity.
And it would almost be a malpractice, wouldn't you say, if Hezbollah had this opportunity during this completely open border to put people through, wouldn't you say?
I think, Senator, if you talk to HSI, you might find some specific examples of where they did that.
It's a real concern, Senator. I don't have the data to back it up. I'm a private citizen who reads the newspaper. I don't get the exquisite reporting anymore, but it's certainly a vulnerability, and terrorists are very good at exploiting vulnerabilities.
And maybe, Mr. Levitt, you can answer the question a little bit differently. If you were a Hezbollah terror operative and you were able to surge the border, where would you go in America? Like, where would you pick to go? Would you go to a sanctuary city, or would you go to a city where law enforcement is respected, immigration rules are enforced? If you had those two choices, you have a binary choice, where would you go?
I think it's worth pointing out that of all the cases I know of actual Hezbollah operatives of kind of the country, less than 5 that I know of actually chose to come in this way. As Bob Clifford noted, there's other ways of better operational security to come in.
But by definition, we don't know. By definition, we don't know because they don't participate in a census. We just have to use a standard called common sense that says, well, if you have a surge of 18,000 people in one area, maybe we'll sneak in a half a dozen there, and you're going to probably go to a sanctuary city because you're actually going to be given sanctuary. Well, that's just common sense. And again, they don't participate in a census. They don't get a survey monkey on their iPhone and they fill out and say, are you a terrorist? Where are you? Just checking.
I didn't get that survey monkey myself either. It is a viable theory, but like you said, it is just that. It's not based on data.
So let's move to the next piece. So you have the border wide open, huge problem. Sanctuary cities, gigantic problem. Certainly helps the terrorists and helps the people that are bringing harm to this country. How about impeding ICE operations? Is that helpful or harmful to terrorists?
If I'm a terrorist, the last thing I want is law enforcement on my trail.
All right. So when you see the impeding of ICE operations, it's ultimately decently ironic because what you're doing is you're helping the criminals. Is that correct? Mr. Billingsley, would you like to add to that?
I think that's exactly right.
And then deportations, like if we want to get people out of the country, trying to jailbreak deportees from foreign jails, is that helpful or hurtful to national security?
It's hurtful and illegal.
Well, not exactly illegal. That was done. I mean, when you go down there and have margaritas in a foreign jail with somebody who we deported is probably not helpful. But ultimately, this is about national security, but also about destabilizing Latin America. You know, the advantage of the United States of America is that we are blessed with phenomenal real estate. We live in a really good neighborhood. That's not true of a lot of places on earth. But if you can destabilize Latin America, it is ultimately the way to destabilize the U.S. Would you agree, Mr. Clifford?
What is your question, Senator?
Is destabilizing Latin America good for America or bad for America, for the United States?
A stabilized Latin America, people would remain there and participate in their country.
And I think we can summarize this, and I know I'm over time, and thank you again for having this hearing, Senator Cornyn. When we look at the Trump doctrine, you look at somebody like me who was born in South America, came here with my family. You look at the United States as somebody who spreads peace and stability around the world. What we've seen, sadly, over decades is basically willful ignorance of Latin America, an inability for us to meaningfully engage in Latin America in a way of providing American leadership. I think President Trump is changing that in very important ways. Number one, designating these cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. You're going to see us take action on that. Designating Venezuela as a state sponsor of terror. You're going to see us take action on that. Putting these narco-sympathizing Hezbollah terror narco supporters on the OFAC list, their families, their enablers. I think you're going to see us take action on that and investigate when they've been elected because they've gotten money from narco-terrorists. That ultimately says we're going to clean up Latin America and rid corruption. Just real quickly, Mr. Sales, Mr. Billingsley, good idea, bad idea?
Good idea. The more stable, the more prosperous our neighborhood is, the better for everyone.
Senator, I 100% agree with you. One key point here, when you look at the regime that has fostered the socialist plague that has spread across Latin America, it's the Venezuelans. It's corrupt, dirty Venezuelan money that underwrote the Petro campaign. They funneled money into Mexico. They funneled money into Brazil. Once we have democracy restored in Venezuela, all of that subversion money that has been underwriting the socialist campaigns around the region dries up. So does the oil revenues to the Cuban regime, all of the support to the Nicaraguans. We forget about what Ortega is doing to the Nicaraguan people. It's a travesty. So the solution begins with the restoration of democracy in Venezuela, in my humble opinion.
I couldn't agree more, and I think we're going to free Venezuela, and that will be one of President Trump's many, many legacies. It's long past due, and I think his days are numbered, and I would be surprised if he's still in Venezuela by the end of this year. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
During a Senate International Narcotics Caucus hearing on Tuesday, Senator Bernie Moreno, ROH, focused his questions on the intersection of border security and national security, raising concerns about potential Hezbollah infiltration into the United States. He emphasized that a nation cannot remain sovereign without a secure border and asked witnesses to explain the operational consequences when surges of migrants cross through non-designated entry points. Officials described how such events strain resources, forcing border agents to divert personnel from legal ports of entry to manage the crisis elsewhere. Moreno pointed to the estimated 10 million illegal crossings over a 4-year period, arguing that this poses a significant threat to U.S. national security. He suggested that groups like Hezbollah could take advantage of these lapses, noting that it would be malpractice for a terrorist organization not to exploit an open border. While witnesses acknowledged the potential risk, Matthew Levitt, a former Wexler Senior Fellow and Director of the Jeanette and Eli Reinhard Program on Counterterrorism and Intelligence at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy, clarified that verified cases of Hezbollah operatives entering through the southern border are few. Still, he agreed the vulnerability exists and should not be ignored. The discussion turned to how sanctuary cities and policies that impede immigration and customs enforcement, ICE, operations may indirectly assist criminal networks and terrorists. Moreno argued that reducing deportations and obstructing enforcement efforts weakens national security by creating safe havens for those who seek to harm the United States. Beyond border enforcement, Moreno tied the issue to broader geopolitical stability. He warned that destabilizing Latin America ultimately destabilizes the United States, calling for greater American engagement and leadership in the region. The senator credited former President Trump's approach, designating drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations and labeling Venezuela a state sponsor of terrorism, as part of a broader strategy to restore order and counter corruption. Witnesses supported the notion that stability in Latin America directly benefits U.S. security. They agreed that restoring democracy in Venezuela is key to halting the flow of corrupt financial networks that fund extremist and socialist movements across the hemisphere. Moreno concluded by predicting that Venezuela's authoritarian regime would soon fall, framing its liberation as one of President Trump's enduring legacies and a vital step toward securing both the region and the United States.